There's an old fallacy out there. You know, when folks are trying to lose weight, people proudly proclaim it's calories in, it's calories out. That's all it is. Calories in, calories out. Eat less, move more. You'll lose weight. Boom, done. It's so easy. Well, if it was, we would have already scored those points, wouldn't we? Oh, yes. So today we're going to take that fallacy of simply eat less, move more, albeit technically correct, sort of, kind of. It just is like saying to your toddler, just tell your toddler to behave and they will. Like, okay, that's a bad example. Oh my gosh. Let's erase that one. Try again. It just doesn't work. It's just not rooted in reality. That's what I'm trying to say. So we're going to go through what macros are. And I want to also recognize that along with this, the fallacy of eat less calories, move your body more. Technically, it is correct. In fact, there is a guy who made his name out in the world of fitness called Jeff Wilsner. And he embarked on an experiment where he wanted to say, it's just calories in, calories out. It is what it is, you all. And he wanted to prove it to everybody. So he ate nothing but processed crap for a whole month. And in 1 month, he lost the same amount of weight that I lost, just about 11 pounds, in my first month of my weight loss journey. And processed junk crap is not a macro. But I went to his journal. He actually did some journaling on this thing that he did. And here, I just want to read a couple of them for you just because it's pretty funny. And then we'll go into the macros thing. So here we go. Day 1, calories, 2,088 calories. Jeff says, it didn't take long to feel the fatal flaw of this plan. The serving size of junk food is profoundly disappointing. And since I capped my portions to their official guidelines, I'm doomed to a month of 27 Cheez-Its and 3 Oreos. I counted every pretzel. I poured M&Ms into measuring cups. I used a spreadsheet to allocate my junky calories throughout the day. 150 calories of Oreos at 7 a.m., 200 calories of donuts at 9 a.m., etc. The math is ugly, but it works. I was never exactly hungry, but I was never fully sated. One eye is always on the clock. This is starting to feel like an awful idea. Yeah, in my earlier one about how I ate 700 calories in 15 minutes, that earlier podcast, that was the one about intuitive eating. Yeah, totally worth checking out. 2,000 calories of junk food is nothing. Here we go. Last day. I'm just going to skip down to day 30 just because I just thought he was just so freaking hilarious. Day 30, calories, 1,827. I discovered the joy of sugar-free Jell-O. It's like cheating. You can devour an entire tub and it only costs 40 calories. For the moment, I'll ignore the recent evidence saying that artificial sweeteners are bad for you. I'm close to the end. People are asking me what I crave. A salad? A burger? I crave more junk food. I have something like Stockholm Syndrome, as the sugary snacks have kidnapped me. I've become afraid of real food, and for this we can thank the brilliant engineers at Nabisco Kraft General Mills et al., who, after spending millions on research and development, carefully calibrate the sugars in their food to the optimal bliss point to make it addictive. For a month, I've been eating nothing but the bliss point, and I want more. Although when I confess to my mom that I'm not craving the salad, she brings up a good point. Jeff, no one's ever craved salad. Okay, that is actually not true. That is actually not true. I've made some really great salads. I have been craving them, and they are a big, big part of what helps me stay within my macros in a way that I can eat where I actually do feel sated, I do feel full, and I'm not craving. I'm not watching the clock. In fact, sometimes a whole afternoon goes by, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm okay. Like I need to eat more, which is really awesome to be able to have that experience and be in a calorie deficit. So this is why macros become so important. So let me pause here real quick and define our terms. Macros is the word used in health and fitness for a macronutrient. So there's all kinds of vitamins and minerals and all kinds of, different nutrients. Macros are those three main buckets. What we're using today, which we've been using for a long time: protein, fats, and carbohydrates. That's right. So let's define those real quick and then we'll move along. Alrighty. Proteins, protein-rich foods, they include things like our lean meats, our chicken breast, turkey, lean cuts of beef, pork, tenderloin, fish, salmon, tuna, shrimp, tilapia, eggs, whole eggs, white eggs, dairy products like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, milk cheese, legumes, beans, even though they're kind of carby too, they actually have a decent amount of protein in them. Soy products like tofu and edamame. A lot of us used to say nuts and seeds are the protein, but really we need to track them as fats, and I'll talk about that later. So not our nuts and seeds. Quinoa, protein-rich grains, and then plant-based proteins like pea proteins, rice proteins, hemp proteins, which is usually a processed thing. So that's our proteins. We kind of know that. Then our healthy fats include things like avocados, olive oil, our nuts and seeds we talked about, fatty fish. So if fish, which is a protein, is a fattier one like salmon, mackerel, sardines, and trout, they can also include fat in them. Coconut oil, nut butters, those are considered fat, not protein, even though there is some protein in them. Olives, seeds, dark chocolate, butter, those things are all considered healthy proteins, healthy fats. Carbohydrates get complicated enough that I'm actually going to do another entire podcast on carbohydrates, because not only do we have simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates that we're used to. So for example, simple carbohydrates, they're the ones your body absorbs quickly. Fruits, apples, fruit juices, refined sugars, table sugar, brown sugar, powdered sugar, candies and sweets and honey and syrups and corn syrup and soft drinks like regular sodas, any energy drink with actual sugar in it. Those are your simple ones. Your body absorbs them really quickly. Complex carbohydrates are the things that actually start sounding more like real food. Except apples and stuff are real food. But like whole grains, brown rice, quinoa, oats, whole wheat bread, whole grain pastas, legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, kidney beans. There we go. So you got the bean thing kind of crossing over on the protein a little too. Starchy vegetables, potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn, peas, whole fruits. So that's our berries, our apples with the peel on it, the pears with the peel on it, stuff like that. Citrus fruits like orange, the whole orange. You can peel the orange, but you eat the orange as opposed to orange juice, right? Vegetables, broccoli, spinach, kale, carrots, whole grain cereals, whole grain crackers that are like whole grain, multi-grain stuff. So carbohydrates get a little bit more complicated, and they get even more complicated when manufacturers start doing this weird thing called net carbs, where they take the fiber out. And we'll talk about that in another podcast. Okay. We're wanting to eat healthy. We're imagining our plate and the food we put on our plate for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. What does it look like? What goes on there? What's going to make us use the least amount of grit and self-discipline needed? What's going to make us feel the happiest, the healthiest, and sustain it all? Because the junk food diet, Not gonna work. You are going to be hungry and cranky all the time. So that's where the calories in, calories out fallacy falls apart. Because if you just ate 2,000 calories in a day, that could be one Haagen-Dazs bar, one bag of potato chips, and a few pretzels. Boom, there's your 2,000 calories for the entire day. Like a whole big bag of potato chips, which I know is not hard to do. That's why I said the whole bag, not just a little snack lunch bag. So we want to look at why do we care about these? What do they, each of these have, what's the purpose of each of them and why they're important? Let's start with protein, because when I'm tracking with individuals specifically for weight management purposes, it starts with the protein. There's a method behind the madness, but it starts with the protein. Myth. High protein intake damages kidneys. We are finding that is a myth that we thought we needed to be careful about, but it's really not a thing. The only individual who would really need to pay attention to watching protein intake for kidneys are having such significant health issues and have a team of doctors surrounding them such that they are getting whatever advice that they need for this. So if protein and your kidneys is such a big issue, you got other big issues you're dealing with too, and you're not necessarily here in exercise classes working out. So you don't need to worry about, is protein going to damage my kidneys? That's what the current experts are saying today. Protein, we want to not think of protein as just growing our muscles. We want to think of protein becomes really important for also our organs, our intestines, our small intestines, our big intestines, our heart, our lungs. Like most of our lean body is made of protein. And our body does not synthesize all the protein on its own. So you've heard me say this before. The protein is made of a battery of different amino acids. Our body does not produce all those amino acids. Therefore, we have to eat protein in order to have what the body needs to make strong bodies and maintain our muscle mass. Yes, so that's protein there. Let's look at fats, because unless you're vegetarian, I love me some bacon. Don't we all love ourselves some bacon? It's actually the salt and fat combination that we love about it. Yeah, that's why we love ourselves some potato chips too. Okay, myth. Fats make you fat. Nope. As far as science is telling us today, if you eat fat does not directly go to the hips. Your body has to metabolize that, go through a whole big old process. And then if you have room to store it as extra glycogen, if you eat too much, then it does that. If you don't have, if your glycogen stores are full and you're not burning what's left of what you ate, that's when your body goes into the process of converting it into fat. So there is no, as far as we can tell, if you eat fat, that exact fat doesn't exactly deposit to your body. It's the excess of calories that your body goes through a metabolic process that converts it to a fat, which stores it into your body. Guess what? You don't even need to know about all that. What is important to know is that when individuals are looking at reducing calories, going into that calorie deficit for the sake of weight management, one of the issues is we, children of the 80s and 70s, went through that phase when we were so misguided about low fat, no fat, no fat, no fat, low fat, low fat, no fat. Here's the thing. Most of us, if we're not counting our calories, we get plenty of fat. We probably get way too much fat. But the second we start really going lean meat, wholer foods, less calories, tracking all of that, the level of fat we need, which is not a whole lot, dips a little bit too low. We need that fat for our brains. Yeah, we need that fat for our brains. We need that fat for our skin. We need that fat for elasticity in our skin. We need that fat for everything in our body to be working well. And it's also, we need fat for our bodies to produce the hormones it needs to manage all of these different metabolic processes going on. And that's why if you eat no fat at all, you can kind of end up with certain hormone imbalances too. So fat is important. It's an important part of being able to absorb nutrients in our body. So we need the fat. So that's why we want to make sure we keep the right amount of fat in there, even when we're in a calorie deficit. That's why actually when I'm doing my weight loss journey, I am sometimes finding myself taking a teaspoon or tablespoon of olive oil and dumping it into my smoothie because I've gotten everything dialed in so perfectly. I got my fat too low and I need to add some back in. So there's our fat. Next, carbohydrates. Myth. Carbohydrates are bad for you. Wah, wah, wah. No. Carbohydrates are actually the body's primary source of energy. When your body needs energy to do something, carbohydrates is where it's at. If you don't have any carbs that your body can fairly quickly convert to sugar in your blood to use to have energy, your body will go for the glycogen in your muscles and stored, and that's great. But when you if you don't have that and you are like zero carbs, this is where the keto thing, we got to look at it carefully. Your brain uses glycogen. Your brain uses carbohydrates. That's partly why if you've been using your brain a lot and all of a sudden you get really snacky and you carb those cravings. Crave those carbs. Yes, you carb those cravings. There we go. We layer some carbs on top of the cravings. It's because the brain actually, that's what the brain uses. And a whole nother aside, if you cut your carbs all the way out, and you stay in a calorie deficit and your body can only use never carbs, it has to use the fat from your body all the time. And you go into this it's essentially ketoacidosis. Your brain kind of freaks out. Your brain's like, where's my glycogen? That's what I need for my brain to work. It takes your brain about 3 days to learn how to use its fat stores. So you get this brain fog, you get this like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I'm having trouble thinking. And that's where you may go for a carb and you legit feel better and you feel like you have more clarity of mind. It's because you have about a 3-day window and your brain is like, I need this. I need the carbs. I can't function as well as I used to. So you need fat as an essential piece of your body functioning. You need protein as the essential way for your body to rebuild itself and continue to get stronger or maintain its health. You need carbs for energy. You need it all. So now we're looking at our plate and we still don't know, well, what do I put on my plate? This is actually where the rubber hits the road, and figuring this all out, balancing out those different macronutrients can be a really super helpful thing, because carbs, we need some carbs in our diet. It keeps us going, it keeps us rock and roll, and it keeps our brain more alert. Too much carbs, we get sluggish. We need protein in our diet. It's what builds us, what makes us healthy. If we eat too much protein, there's not necessarily a health issue unless you're eating really trans fat stuff, but we already know that, right? But you can eat so much volume of protein that your calories go too high, and that protein does end up converting into going through a metabolic process that ends up stored as fat in your body. All of this does. Carbs, fat, protein. It doesn't matter what you eat. If you end up eating more calories in your body, it burns, than it does store those extra calories as fat in your body. So now I'm looking down at my plate and I still don't know, what am I supposed to put on this plate? Well, the good news is there is a huge variety of foods that we can eat that will fill us up, leave us feeling full. And really what I think is almost even more important, getting us into a place where we actually feel like, okay, this is doable, even in the midst of our really shitty food system. Excuse my French, but I should pick a stronger word than that, but I don't know. I get shy. Even in the midst of this, there is a path to being able to eat healthy. And do you have to eat perfect all the time? Of course not. Of course not. If you've heard my other podcast, you know. We want to live lives we love. We want to love our life. We don't want to be considered health freaks, even though we know we have to be somewhat health freakish a little bit in order to get these habits to change. Okay, so still, our plate's still empty. What do we put on there? Oh, I hate even doing this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But what I'm going to say is if you're just looking for a starting point and you're not at the point of dialing this in detail, like exactly how much for your body, for your goals, whether you're wanting to lean out, bulk up, just get healthy, just for the average person, just to get them on the ball field, take a lunch or take a dinner. Imagine half of that plate is green vegetables, green stuff. A little less than a quarter of that plate is your protein. That could be anything from that protein category. A little more than a quarter of your plate is your carbs. That could be anything from your carbs. And then your fat is somewhere in there. So either you have fat that's in the avocado, or you have fat that's drizzled on top of your salad like an olive oil, or you have a piece of salmon that has a little fat in it, or maybe, today it's chicken thighs, not chicken breasts, and so chicken thighs has plenty of fat in that for that meal. In a nutshell, that's what it looks like. Of course, there is 1,000 ways we can go from there, but that at least gets us in the ballpark for our meals. If you'd like me to help you figure this out more detail, schedule a session with me. We can sit down together and I can put your specific goals, numbers, height, weight, goals, all that. We can figure out what your macros should be per gram, figure out what that looks like, what these plates on your table will actually look like in a way that actually honors the food culture you have, honors the seasonings and flavorings you grew up with. I mean, it's a big deal. And you guys know me. I'm not like, here's the one way to do it, slam dunk done, because that's always a recipe for failure, because we're all different and we all have different goals. And I want to honor ourselves, each individual, and where their path is taking them so they can get to their goals, not my goals for you. My goal for you is that you can get to your goals for you. So there you go. There's our macros. All of them are important. Don't cut out any of them unless you're actually allergic to them or they make you crap your pants. Otherwise, you need to eat them all. All right. Go ahead and find me over at couch2active.com. I would love to meet you and work with you. That's couch2active.com.